So glad you're with me today. My name is Micah Burgess. I am a birth doula in Waco, Texas, and you are listening to Game Day, Birds Not Balls. I'm glad you're here. I have a guest with me today. I'm really excited about her being here. Dani, hey.
Hey.
Introduce yourself to my listeners.
Hey guys, I'm Dani Harris. I am a mom, a wife, and I should say I coined this a mom of two doTERRA babies. And we can get into that a little bit more. And an advocate for taking charge of your fertility and living pain-free with endometriosis and PCOS if you deal with that.
Wow.
And just having happy, healthy hormones. That's what I love.
I love that. Okay, well, keep going. Keep talking about those things. Yeah, you mentioned like 3 or 4 big ones. So yeah,
big ones.
Jump in.
I can backtrack just a little bit about my history, I guess. I was born and raised in Waco, grew up here. Nice. I don't know are you from Waco?
I'm
Micah?
a Wacoan. Okay. I didn't get here till like 6th grade, but I graduated from Waco High. So I'm a Wacoan, yeah.
Yeah, so I was born and raised here and moved away for a little bit for college and an internship in New York, and then just came back here. And yeah, it's a great place to raise kids.
How long have you been back?
Oh gosh, that was, I don't even know.
It don't matter.
Yeah,
right, go ahead.
I graduated in like 2013, and then have been back pretty much ever since.
Okay.
Opened a yoga studio downtown, had that for almost 4 years.
Wow.
And it's been almost 3 years now that has closed.
Wow.
And so just motherhood for 3 years and have been loving it, and teach people full time on wellness and essential oil education. And like I said, happy, healthy hormones and dealing with life with endometriosis and PCOS. Wow. And helping a lot of people, I say within our oil community, but of course expands far beyond that, get their period back, their cycle back, have it regular again, get off birth control. So
important.
Yeah, very important.
Especially with, the particular topic that I tend to talk about, which is childbirth. And so let's merge the two worlds here together, and what I'm hoping we can actually talk about. And I know one of the things that I particularly enjoy about you and what you're doing has to do with your yoga background. And I know you're talking about now more specific wellness. But for me in childbirth, one of the biggest secrets, of course, if you've been listening to my podcast very long, it's not a big secret anymore. But one of the biggest tips that I would give to anyone has to do with their breathing.
Yep.
And what I would love for you to do is talk to us a little bit about the importance of deep cleansing breaths. What is actually happening in our bodies, in our minds? Why is it so important? Why does this work so well scientifically, physiologically for my clients? Give me the spiel.
Yeah, totally. Are you game for taking a few deep breaths? Just a second.
Yeah,
I gotta cut this chill and just chill out for a second. Okay, so if you're listening, you can close your eyes if you want to. Maybe you're driving, so don't do that. But just go ahead and take a deep breath in through your nose, just a normal, even breath. And then open your mouth, exhale. It can be audible. We'll just take 2 more. Inhale. Exhale. Last one, inhale. Exhale. So whether you're in this room right now or I know. So automatically though, you can just feel your body just kind of relax and get some focus back and some clarity. And I'm going to take it back to, I guess, when I first got started doing yoga, which was in college. I went to TCU in Fort Worth.
Okay.
Always kind of did of course, athletics and stuff growing up, but intense, coaches yelling at me was never my thing. I do not enjoy that. And so HIIT workouts, CrossFit, all that kind of stuff, it's just not my jam, So in college, I was just trying to find a workout that was good for me. And some friends were going to a heated yoga studio.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try that. And so I started doing that. And it was just amazing. I would get out of the classes feeling so much clearer, more focused, more relaxed. I mean, in college, in life in general right now, everyone is stressed, but in college and, you have the pressure of getting good grades and just being a good student and all of those things. I feel like it just gave me a sense of everything's going to be okay. brings me back down to my baseline, and I'm going to be good. Yeah. So I continued doing, it was heated yoga at the time, pretty regularly, and just fell in love with it. And what I noticed when I was doing that was they would guide you through your breath while you were, doing your movement. And with that breath guidance, it was like my movement just kind of, you weren't even thinking about it. It was like all you could think about was your breath and moving you through your breath, guiding your movements rather than the other way around.
Yeah.
And so, just that simple breath work of that's all that I needed to help me feel that way. And so then I got into a little bit more of like meditation or prayer. Prayer for me is very inward and to myself, and moving yoga almost came like a meditative prayer for me. Wow. So as I was moving, it was just the breath, and I could focus on, praying with God and all that kind of stuff instead of focusing so much on my movement and getting a workout in. Like it became not about the workout. And even though I got the benefits of that, it was all just about the brain and my breath and what that could do for me. So then fast forward when I moved back to Waco, at the time, this was 2014-ish, there was like no yoga. I mean, there was yoga at the Y. I actually was doing yoga out of a lady's back house garage apartment with a few other girls. And that was like, unless you knew someone that was teaching it locally, like from their back house apartment, there really wasn't like a ton offered here. And so
Waco's so backwards and so behind at
but
times.
It's grown so
it absolutely has
so much. I'm so thankful for that. And so it kind of just fell into my lap. There was a developer downtown, and he's like, Dan, you need to check out this space. And I was like, I never envisioned myself opening up a yoga studio. Like that was the last thing I ever thought, but we didn't have it. And so there was a need, and it needed to be filled. And at the time I was like, well, I don't know what else I'm going to do. I'm not going to go back to New York. I studied fashion merchandising. And so that was just not my path. And so I just took the plunge and opened up a yoga studio. Of course, got certified and got all my instructors and everything. And it was an awesome 4 years. And so within that time period, then just seeing the effects and change and how simple breath work can impact so many lives by just teaching people how to breathe. And so I always said, like, I even worked with some Baylor students and the acrobatic team and football and stuff. And girls, women especially, I think growing up, we're just, hopefully not this generation, but I think our generation, we're taught suck in, always suck in, hold your stomach in. So then the breathing naturally comes from the top, the chest, when you're taking an inhale and you're sucking in your stomach, right? And I saw this in yoga class teaching. So I would say, take a deep breath in, and instead of pushing their belly out and opening up and expanding their whole body, they would suck their stomach in and open up their chest. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we have this so backwards. Yeah. So I saw that need, and it just needed to be changed, and people needed to be retaught that you don't have to suck your stomach in, especially women.
I know.
You don't need to pull your stomach in. No. Let it relax. Like that triggers so many other things. Of course, like that, then your uterus is tightening, and then that's stress response. And there's so many other things that go in with that. So anyways, I feel like that was the first kind of trigger of like, okay, something is really happening here. And when I'm teaching this in a proper way, it's really impacting the students and clients and customers.
So can you speak to why it matters, what the big difference is when you breathe through your chest as opposed to abdomen? Can you talk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, I am, to be honest, not a really scientific person, but I'm just like, let's figure out a way to make it easy. Yeah. So when I teach breath work, it's just a big belly breath. So you take a deep breath in, fill your whole belly up, like it's almost like a balloon that you're filling up. Belly first, then chest, open your shoulders, and then on your exhale, feel that balloon deflating, which is from your belly, pulling it back in, then your chest relax, then your shoulders. So all of this stems back, I think, to parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system stuff, as well as your vagus nerve, which controls so many things in our body. And actually, before this podcast, I'm like, I got to relook all this up because I know how to explain all of this in like normal terms, but sciencey terms, I was like, woo. So your vagus nerve is connected from brain to voice and down all the way to your digestive system. Wow. So when you think about your breath and a simple breath like that affecting from your brain to your belly, That is really important, right?
Yeah.
And so even I say if women are dealing with like constipation issues, digestive issues, stress, depression, anxiety, any of that,
Yeah.
a deep breath is going to tell your, gotta pause here, parasympathetic nervous system is relax, right? So it's going to say, okay, you can kick in, and your sympathetic nervous system, which is like, I'm going to be late for this. I'm going to like run from that tide or whatever. But if you're in that state for too long of stress, that's going to have an effect on your hormones. So wrapping it back to just taking charge of your fertility and having proper digestion, which all affects your hormones and your brain function. It's all connected.
It is.
Just taking a deep belly breath is affecting all of that.
So
and
crazy.
so then when we take it back to birth, I'm like, if everyone just practiced inhaling through their nose, exhaling through their mouth, which I know when you're in it in the moment is not that easy. But even if you have someone guiding you through, like that was the only thing that got me through my births, for real. It was intense breathing.
It's absolutely. That is the very first thing, honestly. Like when I join a client at their home or at the hospital, and oftentimes, you know, we're not in the thick of it yet. It's not too hard, and I don't tweak things and fix things if they're managing fine. But as soon as that breathing through the contraction becomes labored, or they're struggling and they're making faces, or the very first thing I do is fix their breathing. The very first thing. And so just like what we did a second ago, I talk them through it. This is what it's going to look like. I demonstrate it, and then I do it with them. So then for the next contraction, I get a really good deep breath in through your nose, breathe everything down and out, drop those shoulders, everything. So then we do that a couple times through that one contraction. When that contraction's over, 9 times out of 10, the client looks at me and goes, oh my gosh, that was so much easier. That's crazy. And that will help them and sustain them for hours. I'm not kidding. Like I won't have to fix anything for a while. Just that breathing alone helps them relax. And then when we get to transition, and now we're kind of starting to lose our ever-loving minds because we've been doing this for hours and hours and hours. Now they're right on top of each other. The contractions, there's no break, and on and on and on. I will remind them and take them back. Listen, the only thing you have control of right now is your breathing. So focus on your breathing and just envision blowing all of that pain, all of that tension out of your mouth, and just focus on your breath. That's it. You got to ignore everything else. And so it's huge.
And not even in just birth and labor, but like in our daily life.
Yeah.
Breath is the one thing we have control of. Like if you're stressed and anxious and running from thing to thing, like your breath is the only thing that can slow you down. You have to take conscious effort to do that. But when you take the time and the pause to do that, I feel like it's like you said, it's the only thing that you have control over to take back the situation that you're in, whatever that may be, including birth.
Exactly.
Which is so important. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your birth experiences.
Yeah, both of them. I guess most of your audience is local, huh? So
it's starting to change. Yeah.
Okay.
We're getting more and more people, all over the country. I'm actually not sure exactly, but
which is how fun is that?
So
That's
fun.
Awesome. But if you're local to Waco, I delivered both my babies at Providence with the midwives there, and they are wonderful. Morgan Estes is a close friend of mine and was the midwife for both of them. Praising God that she was able to make both first. So the first one was just really very long and tiring. It got to the point of like, I don't know if I can make it through this. And I didn't have a doula on my first birth. I wish I would have now. I thought my husband could pull through on all the things you need a doula for, but you know, sweet husbands. And I can only speak for mine. But after a couple hours of hip squeezes, he was done. Like checked out, arms, shaking.
Don't you want that epidural now, honey?
I know. And so that was, at least 10 hours in the hospital laboring, and then like 2 hours of pushing. Everything ended up being beautiful and great. And
which is typical for a first time birth, everybody. What she just said is not crazy. That's pretty typical.
And that's what I had like kind of set my mind up for. So it wasn't terrible. You know, when I could have stayed, I think, and labored at home a little bit longer. So maybe got to the hospital a little bit too soon, but was still 6 centimeters dilated. And by the time I got there, so I was like, okay, this is fine.
Totally.
And was able to use the tub there and the shower, and water and heat is like my thing.
Bliss.
And hip squeezes for both my labors were a necessity. So yeah, that was the first one. Millie, she's turning 3 on Sunday.
Aww,
Crazy.
so
I know.
sweet.
And then my second just turned 1 yesterday.
Yesterday, I saw that on Instagram.
Yeah, her name is
That's
Della.
crazy.
So 2 little girls, and the second one was really crazy. That was last year's winter apocalypse craziness.
My God.
Like snowed in, we didn't have power, so we had to go to my grandma's barn, which had power.
Y'all, we don't do snow in Texas.
No, we don't.
We just don't do that, especially Waco, Texas. Maybe up in the Panhandle, that we don't do snow, ice, nothing. Like we shut down.
Yeah, we didn't know what to do. Seriously. So I'm thinking, well, maybe this is my opportunity to have a home birth. My husband is an EMT and firefighter, so he's like,
hell no.
he's like, no, that's not happening. I think on the third one, maybe I can convince him. That's my
Get
hope.
back to me on that one.
Yeah, third and fourth.
I just did an podcast episode. It was released last Wednesday. Actually, I don't know when I'm airing this one, but it's talking about what is a home birth. And the guest was Caitlin Fusco, who does Happy Home Birth podcast and Happy Home Birth Academy. And it's all this information. Anyway, so we just did it. So that's on my brain.
Yeah.
So
So that's still my goal. I would love to have a home birth,
awesome.
but also have to, honor his wishes and stuff
course.
too. But I'm the one laboring, so,
This is true.
Yeah. So anyways, the second one, was in the crazy winter storm. Nimsy was my doula for that one. She was amazing. Luckily, her and Morgan were both able to make it. The roads were like, it took us 30 minutes longer than it typically would take us to get to the hospital. So that was like the worst ride of my life. And then once we got there, I can't remember how many centimeters I was dilated, but by the time we got there to the time I delivered was only an hour. So way shorter, quicker birth, which was, thank God. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So how did you incorporate, do you remember thinking about and being very deliberate in your breathing with either the first or the second, like applying all of those things?
Yeah, I think since I had been practicing it for so long, it comes maybe more naturally to me now than maybe someone first starting it. But it's all a practice. Like it's something you have to practice, and it's something I prepped for labor too and delivery. So I think it was the Calm app, and there was another really good one that I used.
That kind of takes you through the breathing process.
Yeah, that can walk you through if you don't want to just do it by yourself.
Neat.
So Insight Timer is it's a free app, but they have, if you just like search pregnancy, they have specific ones for that.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I prepped, I guess, my mind and my body before birth, but then just working on breathing. And I mean, I would say when the contractions start, I just automatically go into that deep inhale and exhale. But if you're not used to doing that, like this is something we all have to cultivate and practice.
Right.
And it's not to say that you can't do it or it will never come naturally to you because,
right.
you just got to practice it.
Right. Because the key, you guys, and I agree with Dani that in life, we have to de-stress. And not only do you need that mentally and emotionally, which is what most of us think of when we talk about stress, is how it affects us emotionally and mentally. But the effects stress has on you physically is a big deal. So I agree with Dani. We're not just talking about specific childbirth here in terms of breathing. It is beneficial for your whole life and to start doing it, to continue to do it. Get in touch with people that know how to guide you through this properly, especially if you feel like y'all are just breathing. Like, I don't get it. Like, I mean, what are we doing here? And so the name of the game in childbirth is relaxing. And the best way to do that is to start with your breath. And so if you're not relaxing, especially if you're wanting to try to accomplish a natural childbirth, you're not wanting a lot of interventions or pain meds, then if you're not relaxing, that means you're tensing, and that means it's going to hurt more and it's going to take longer.
Yeah.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
So trust me that if your goal and if your focus and your prep, like you said, Dani, is relaxing your muscles and your body and using breath to do that, then it is not going to hurt as much. Your labor and delivery is going to go much smoother, quicker, and you're going to be singing my praises. I'll tell you what, just doing that alone right there.
Yep. That's all. I would say if you could do one tool or have
Yes.
one thing that you're practicing up until labor and delivery,
Yes.
it's your breathing. Like,
Absolutely.
and I didn't speak to this, but if you want to then help more calming relaxation, which is what we're working on in birth, the breath would be a shorter inhale, a longer exhale.
Okay.
So that's going to take you a while to like work up to. If
Yeah.
I'm automatically telling you take 3 counts in, 5 counts out. If you're first starting this, you're going to be like, I can't even make it to 3 on my inhale, you know? So work your way up and start slowly on maybe just one long count of 1, you know, take a deep breath in for 1 and then exhale for 2, 1, 2, and then work your way up and then do 2 counts in, 4 counts out, and then just keep working your way up. And it's always a shorter inhale, longer exhale. Now I will say if you're trying to like pump yourself up and, you know, wake up in the morning or that afternoon slump and you just need to like get going, the inhale can be longer than the exhale. So you can switch it and that will kind of give you a little bit more energy or rev you up. But even maybe a tip if you're feeling like, clients are, or if you're in labor and you're like, I just can't do this, maybe you need to take a few breaths that are quicker, longer inhales, shorter exhales, and then switch it back to lowering, you know, relaxing everything again.
Yeah.
And you mentioned just stress overall, like having such an effect on everything. And I would say if I can like go back and pinpoint one thing that was affecting or elevating my endometriosis at the time before I got pregnant, I would say it would be stress.
Wow.
And I always say everything is stemmed from stress though, like no matter what it is, digestive issues, anxiety issues, fertility issues, like all of that can stem from stress because then it affects, it's just like a cascade effect to everything else. And so even when I'm working with, you know, other women and trying to figure out, well, why are you not having a cycle or what else might be going on? Can you get out of whatever stressful situation that you're in? Or if you have to stay in it, what tools can you use or do that will help lessen that stress load?
Yeah.
And so going back to pinpointing that for me was, I mean, I was running the yoga studio all by myself. I mean, my instructors were like, oh my God, such a huge help. I wouldn't have been able to do it without them. But financially and running a brick and mortar shop by yourself alone is just a lot. And it was just getting to that point where my endometriosis kept getting worse and worse and my cysts kept growing. And I'm like, I don't know what else to do. And so we were going to move locations onto Washington by Refit. They're amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And then I did end up getting pregnant. But in that, and then, so that's why I ended up closing because I'm like, God, this is just a sign of like, this is the time to shut it down and just be at home with the babies. But within that time, I had already kind of made that decision, I think, in my mind that I was going to just, like, this was the time to shut it down within the transition of moving. And I'm telling you, that was my stress load. Like, so I got rid of that.
Yeah.
My major stress load, and then started with the fertility protocol, actually with doTERRA essential oils. I've been using them for like 8 years, but there's different supplements, which other brands have similar types of things, but this is just what I personally used and what worked for my body. It's not going to work for everyone. But anyways, got on a protocol from a friend of mine who had a friend that was a doula that gave me this protocol.
Oh my gosh.
And so anyways, she's amazing. And so that's the other one main thing, I think, breathing. And then if you're dealing with, any sort of hormone or fertility issues, is cleaning up your environment as much as you can and getting rid of any toxic stuff. And I mean, a lot of people still don't even, the people in my community, like, that's what we talk about all the time. So that's like just what we're used to. But I know there's so many people that have not even thought of a plug-in in their home possibly affecting their fertility, right?
No one is thinking that.
No,
I promise you, Dani. Nobody is thinking of
That's
that
my brain.
plug-in. I don't know if I can maybe get pregnant because I have this plugged in. Nobody's thinking that. You're so right. So we need more, not just information, because what I feel like is the information's out there.
Yeah.
We need more awareness.
Yeah, totally.
And in some way, whether that's, I don't know, hosting more events or doing podcast episodes or I don't know, but yeah, there's so many things that we don't know. I tell my clients that all the time, especially first-time moms. You don't know what you don't know. So when you go in for this first birth experience, and let's say you're going to the hospital, you don't know what it's going to be like to go through triage. You don't know all the questions they're going to ask you while you're having contractions and papers you got to sign and IV. You don't know all that.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know what they mean when they say that the baby is having heart decels. Those are good decels. Those are bad decels. Like, you don't know what they're talking about. And so education is our new norm. I feel like in this generation is, hey, let's get informed about everything. I mean, y'all, you can look up so much stuff now. YouTube channels, good grief. I mean, that alone, I'm not saying every YouTube channel is good or has the right information. But I would say this, I would encourage you guys to, I'm sure there are people in your life or in your community that you trust, that you see their lifestyle, you see who they are as people, and you go, you know what? I'm going to pick their brain. I think I'm going to listen to them, because if you've got too many voices, too many resources that you're trying to listen to and take in, it can get really confusing.
Yeah, and
really
you feel
confusing.
alone too,
Yes.
like you're doing it all by yourself. And hire a doula, guys. Hire a doula. And like, you guys guide us through everything. And so then they're your little encyclopedia of all your questions that you want to ask, and you don't have to Google everything by yourself and still have to decipher what is right for you and what is not. And your doula can help you figure that out.
Yes, yes. I was thinking a minute ago, you were talking about something and it made me think about, I don't know how many of you guys know what perineal massage is, but
Let's talk about it.
let's talk about it. So that's one thing we encourage our clients to do. It is one thing that I did with all of my pregnancies, every single one of them, the last 5 weeks before I deliver. My husband was a huge help in this. And it's basically, okay, not technically stretching your perineum, okay, because you're not stretching. A lot of people think you're supposed to be stretching to a 10. Hey, it's not your perineum that goes to a 10. It's your cervix. So you're not like trying to stretch this poor sweet woman to a 10, like the size of a baby's head. Don't do that, please. Please don't do that. It's more about how rubber bands are, if you pull them, they're tight. And if you release that tension, how pliable it is, how loose that is. And that's what you're looking for with perineal massage. These bands in there are never been used, never been stretched. I mean, think about it. Even in sex, I mean, the penis is going straight back. It's not hitting the sides. So it's super sensitive and very tight. So anyway, we talk about this. And so through the perineal massage, it's about a 15, 20 minute a night exercise. And the goal is to relax while pressure is being applied, while this massage slow motion is being applied. And so I'm thinking about the breath. I'm thinking about the breathing again. I'm thinking about, that was the only way that I was able to, especially the first few times, kind of get through it. So what the benefit of that is, yes, you're helping to release tension in the perineum, but what you're also doing is teaching yourself how to relax while you feel pressure. This is a big deal in pushing, you guys, because when you're pushing a baby, you have to push, which requires effort and strength, and relax those muscles all at the same time. That is not easy to do. Not easy to do at all. So I'm going to encourage you guys to look into perineal massage. And that's a good way, like you were talking about, to prep, to practice before you get to birth. What is this going to look like? How am I going to approach and attack these contractions, these pushes that I'm going to have to do, you know?
Totally. And I did that with both of my births, and I actually used diluted helichrysum, if you've ever heard of that essential oil, which is really great. It's like nature's stitches, so really great at blood, preventing like excess blood flow. And so I don't think on either of them I had like, intense bleeding or anything. I didn't. The first one, that was a long labor. So I didn't tear though, because I think it was so long. The second one was a little bit more fast action.
Yes.
So I did tear, but it was more on just like the labia. It wasn't, it wasn't, I don't even know what that's called.
Not deep.
Getting back to the
rectum and all that, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it wasn't that kind of tear, that's where we were doing the massage. So I mean, I think for sure I would still do it 100% for every birth in the future. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's key. And, I had pretty big babies. I did this exercise, like I said, with all of them, and I didn't tear with any of my kids.
Oh my.
And so amazing. It's not because I'm Superwoman, like I'm not It's because I was really intentional and focused on how can I prepare for this, because I'm choosing to have a natural birth. I don't want all of these other things. So you got to prepare differently for that, because you're not just walking in and going, hit me up with the epidural so I can sleep. You know what I'm saying? Very different approach. And there's nothing wrong with that approach. I mean,
even
some
if you are
women
getting
know.
an epidural, you got to still prep for all these things.
You do.
I mean,
I agree with that.
yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast kind of what your interests are, but can you maybe tell us more specifically what you're up to, what you're putting your hands to, what you want to be doing, how you want to be helping people, serving people? If someone was going to reach out to you, hey, this is what I'm passionate about, cover that.
Those are great questions, and makes me really think about what I want now out of life. Yeah. So it's still been 3 years since I've really been in the yoga community within Waco and dabbled back into it. I feel like I'm slowly getting back into that. And we talked about the little 30-second pause breath work. If you follow me on Instagram, it's at Dani_L Harris. And I was feeling this pull. I guess it was last year when I started. Gosh, I don't even know. It's been months now, but feeling a pull to do something. And every time I run into someone that used to come to the yoga bar, they always just fill me back up with all of the things I loved about it. And it just keeps giving me a little nudge of you got to get back into this in some way, shape, or form. And so reels, I'm like, well, I don't really know how to do a reel, but I can do something on it for 30 seconds and not have to edit anything, you know? And so I just kind of said to myself, I'm just going to start with breath. And that's just going to be an easy thing. At the time last year, and of course the year before, everyone's on social media, but we're not really doing anything actively in our outside lives. And I feel like that's then causing all of this anxiety and depression and everything in our world. And I just thought if I could have something people scroll past and they stop for even 30 seconds to just reset their mind. And even if that helps them get off social media at that point, then that would be my job done, you know?
Cool.
So I started that, and it's just a fun thing for me now.
Good.
And I just, it's just natural. It's coming
and now
natural.
Your babies
every day.
are involved.
Yes. Yeah. They get involved too. And now Millie is directing everyone to take a deep breath in and out. But when you're doing those things around your kids, or even your husband, my husband has not stopped in his tracks and breathes, but I know that it's affecting him in some way to see us doing that. So yeah, breathing, getting back into things slowly, hoping to dabble a little bit more back into the yoga community. Good. And working with Duality and Yoga Aid and the local studios here in Waco. If you are local, Duality is starting a prenatal, postnatal I can't remember what the day of the week it is, but it's going to be an every week class.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So if you're expecting or are postpartum or just want to come to a nice hip opener class,
love it.
You should check that out. And I know Yoga Aid, I think, has some prenatal and postnatal kind of classes too. So anyways, hopefully I'll be back in that scene soon and teaching a little bit more. I've thought about doing more options, availability online to whatever it might be, meditation or yoga. So I'm still working with that. But other than that, I just really teach wellness classes around town and online. And again, it's a variety of topics. But what I'm most passionate about is just happy and healthy hormones and trying to give women another solution and a natural option. Yes. First, try it, see if it works. If it doesn't, there's always other options out there. But work with me first and see if we can help get something back on track. And if someone reached out to me, I'm an open book, so I'll just help you out as much as I can. And I would say my goal for the next 4 months is to just impact as many lives as I possibly can with finding natural solutions for whatever might be ailing you. It does not have to be hormonal things, although that's what
I hope that I didn't know that you were about to start doing that. So I hope this podcast, it's also helpful in kind of giving you that boost and getting the word out there for people to look you up, to contact you where you're teaching these classes and get more educated, get more familiar. And even if one of the topics is not something you need to hear, you probably know somebody that needs to hear it.
Any wellness topic that you're learning about, you're going to pull something from to then deal with whatever you're currently going through.
Good. And you gave us your Instagram handle already. Is that just the main way to find you?
That's me for now. Yeah, cool. No website or anything. Just at Dani, Dani _LELLEHARRIS. This has been so fun, Micah.
This has been great. We've been trying to get together and do this for a little while. And so I'm so glad we finally got to do it. I love how these two things merge so beautifully, what you're doing, what I'm doing. And I think yoga, y'all, is a really great option for anyone. I'm going to encourage these pregnant mamas, postpartum mamas. It's gentle on your body. And then like we were talking about, just that the breathing and the relaxation is just going to go hand in hand with what you're going to need for childbirth. So these two things work well together and collide in a really beautiful way. So thank you, Dani, for being with me today.
You guys give us feedback, because I would love to offer just like a free YouTube video of stretching or breathing, guiding you through breath or anything like that. Can we close with some breath?
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so again, if you're driving, don't close your eyes. But if you guys want to close your eyes or put a hand to your heart or your belly, you can. And again, we're going to be taking those deep, full belly breaths. So just remember, on your inhale, I want you to fill your belly up first, like you're filling up a balloon. Then your chest, open your shoulders. And then on your exhale, belly softens, pull it back in, chest softens, shoulders. We'll just take 3 together. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Open your mouth. It can be audible. Inhale through your nose, fill that belly up, then the chest, open the shoulders. Exhale, try to take it out for a little bit longer. Pull those ribs back together, pull your belly button back in towards your spine. And last one, deep breath in through your nose, fill the whole body up. And exhale, let it go. Hope you feel great.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dani.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for joining me on Game Day, Birds Not Balls. You can follow me on my Instagram page at MyDoulaMicah. You can also find me on wacodoula.com. Waco Doula is on Facebook. And if you like what you heard, you can subscribe, or you can find us on RogueMediaNetwork.com. Thanks for joining us.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.